name is Caryn Johnson. I am a marketer by trade, a mom, mornings, nights, and weekends, I guess you would say. I had a pretty severe, or what I would say as serious battle with infertility over the course of many years that I'm here to share with you today. But before we get started, I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. I am, in most senses of the term, unremarkable, and that is not my own definition. That is the definition on several of my medical reports: unremarkable ovaries, unremarkable uterus, whatever it was. But I am, in your sense, or the start of the medical sense, pretty unremarkable. But I come here first saying that I am not a doctor. I am not a researcher, really. I am trained mostly by, I forgot to bring in the book I was going to bring in and hold it. But I'm just a person here to tell my story. But, back to the basics of me. I am of a normal AMH level. Both of my fallopian tubes are open. I have grown beautiful follicles through the IUI process, and I went on to do the same in IVF. So I am pretty unremarkable in those starter senses of, where you begin your fertility journey. When I was a little girl, growing up, I had an unremarkably fortunate life, so to say. I have a wonderful mother, a wonderful father. They're married. I have been so blessed in that sense. As a little girl, all I wanted was to be a mother. That was the storyline for me. The Barbie dolls. This was my baby doll. Brett was his name. I carried him around until I was 11 years old. At 11 years old, I got my first job babysitting for $1 an hour. So that was my childhood. I met my husband shortly after college. We were 24 years old. We've been together 11 years now. He waited 4 years to propose, which I didn't appreciate at the time, but we were married, and then we started our journey to becoming parents. I guess I didn't animate the bottom. I just included these in here for a little fun, but about 1 year into trying, as your doctors will tell you or mandate, I went to I went to my OBGYN, and he had a recommendation to start the IUI process. Essentially, I had been ovulation tracking at home, basal body temping, doing, crystal magic, whatever all the infertiles are into. But nothing was working. I'd never had a positive pregnancy test, not even one hint of a scare, hint of a thought that I was pregnant. So, I very much lived my life in a different world, which was, I had never even try to think about getting pregnant. So anyway, we started the IUI process. I did 4 rounds of IUI. There were 3 to 4 beautiful eggs. I mean, I don't want to go into every single detail because I feel like those are the non-factors, but nothing ended up happening. It was never a positive pregnancy test. So, and from all the reports, normal. So we were recommended to, I'm Chicago based. So we were recommended to the Fertility Center of Illinois, where I started my IVF journey the next year. I went through the egg retrieval first as the protocol. We were planning to do the egg retrieval, freeze, and then do an implantation. I did the egg retrieval like a gold star student, I would say. They pulled over 25 eggs out of me, which is probably says to all of you that I have PCOS, which I think I do. I mean, I know I do, but they pulled 25 eggs out of me. I got a little bit of ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome that had to go down, and we ended up with 8 beautiful PGS tested normal embryos. And I went on to implant one of those. That was this little girly here. She was a girl. I went through the 2-week wait from the implantation with her, and went in. I didn't do, there are a lot of conspiracies on when you can test and when a pregnancy test will be positive. There are full Facebook groups devoted to that now. So I waited the full 2 weeks, and I went in for a beta. I didn't test it. I did test at home. There was not even a faint line. I went in for my beta came back at 11. So I was 2 weeks post 5-day transfer, and they said it wasn't viable. And the doctor said, oh, gee, you were probably pregnant for like maybe 1 to 2 hours. And, I was in the office, and I was devastated. I didn't know what 1 to 2 hours meant. I had never had a positive pregnancy test. And, 11 is like fucking nothing. Excuse my language. There is a small child here. 11 is not, as you know, viable.
And we are recording, so we don't know. Then
Sorry, Dr. Moore. No, I have to be my authentic self. That does include a curse word. They do say that those who curse have a higher intelligence. So I was just devastated. It was the darkest time. I felt like I couldn't be as sad as I was, because so many people had larger issues, larger losses, larger problems than I did. And I did my own thinking and research, and I asked for a pregnancy loss. Oh, I should go into that first. Okay. So I did my own research, and this was all kind of like happening at the same time. I was like in the depths of whatever internet was in 2016. It wasn't like Reddit yet. It was like whattoexpect.com/blog. I don't know, / like page 50 million. And someone was like, you should read this book if like you're having trouble implanting. So I picked up this book on Amazon. It took 2.5 weeks to get to my house from wherever it was ordered from. And I read the whole thing front to back. And again, I'm a marketer. I don't know if my IQ is actually high or not. And I read the whole thing, and like, I was genuinely jaw drop shocked at the levels of, what was being researched, reported, discussed as potential for why pregnancy cannot happen or could not sustain. And I got to the end of the book, and I was who I am today. And I was like, great, I'll just call Dr. Alan Beer. And then it was the next page was about his life. Obviously, he is deceased. So there is a list of 3 recommendations at the end of the book for clinics to get this line of testing or immune testing done. And the first clinic was Chicago, Rosalind Franklin, and I thought it was fate. So I called up Rosalind Franklin to try to get an appointment, and they said, oh yeah, we'll put you on our wait list of like 4.5 months. And I was like, okay, so this isn't a secret. Like some people understand this, but I just felt like I had like was the only one who had like found this world. And anyway, at the same time, I was doing what the book had said and working with a naturopath just to get some testing done. I was having stomach pains. It's been pretty typical in my life. What happens to me is about 1 hour after waking up, I get shooting pains in my stomach. They usually last about like 3 to 4 minutes. Half the days I throw up and it's over. The other half, it's just like feels like some acid. Anyway, it's like my whole issue. The healthier I eat, the better I feel, the less of this problem that I have. So I started abiding by what I guess I would call an anti-inflammatory diet. I think that they call it a low carb diet in some places, but essentially it was no gluten, dairy, soy, added sugar, alcohol, caffeine. It was in a sense Whole30. If you know that protocol, it's a little bit dated now, but and then I was doing 30 to 50 grams of collagen per day. I worked in the supplement space at the time. I was an early employee at a company called Vital Proteins, which is ingestible collagen. And I was employee number 5 throughout this entire process of infertility. We were growing that company to what it is today. So anyway, I understood and did a lot of my own research and understood a lot about kind of like the world of, I wouldn't call it diet, but the world of supporting your body with healthy ingredients, so on and so forth. Anyway, so that was going on. I asked my RE to run the recurrent pregnancy loss panel. They ran it and charged $3,000 out of pocket because I did not have I didn't have 4 pregnancy losses to qualify for the insurance of the panel. Keep in mind, IVF with insurance where I was at was probably 5 to 10 grand for, you know, what I was expecting to pay IVF wise. So it was a fairly controversial thing that I did here. The only thing that came back abnormal was that I am MTHFR heterozygous. So this produced nothing for me. You know, the doctors at this phase were pretty much saying like, you know, you lose pregnancies and these things happen and you need to just keep trying and we'll do the next round. So, you know, with their advice, I planned for the next round of IVF and I went into the hormone prepping process for that. Oh, that's a really good slide. I'm gonna wait. I went into the IVF prepping process, which is a lot of hormones. It's, you know, pretty intense on you know, what your day-to-day life is. And I got a call. It was October. I got a call and it was Rosalind Franklin. And they said, oh, we have a cancellation. We can move you up earlier. I wasn't supposed to be in there for 3 more months. So I said, great, you know, I'm planning to do this implantation next week. They said, okay, well, come in like tomorrow and we'll run your blood work. So I went in there. I got in as a new client like a week before my implantation. They ran all of my blood work and they called me back. I mean, some of these tests took, you know, like up to a week and some of them came back pretty quickly, but when they got the ANA level, they called me and said, like, cancel the implantation. And I said, why? They said, you have the highest level of ANA or anti-nuclear antibodies that are chartable, and this could potentially, you know, be very hard on your pregnancy, if not terminate. So I did not take their advice, but I was listed with these 10, I don't know what you would call them, conditions, after working with Rosalind, which kind of turned my world upside down as I prepared for that transfer and kind of what to do. Okay, so immediately I started a medicine protocol that included blood thinners as well as metformin, some of the vitamins that I was deficient in, prednisone. I did between 30 and 40 a day. It just depended on where I was in my pregnancy. And then I did Plaquenil, and then I did IVIG to body weight. I started that the day before my implantation, and then throughout the course of my pregnancy, I did IVIG 1 to 3 times a week. So I would double dose many weeks, and then on some weeks I would come back and get another dose. So I started this full, do you want to stop and like, are these informative facts? Do we want to stop and ask questions?
Feel free to ask any question. Yeah, it's okay with you?
Yeah.
I don't know if everybody is familiar with.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So what is MTHFR and why is being homozygous or heterozygous important?
Oh gosh.
It's methylene tetrahydrofolate reductase. And if you have a polymorphism, it reduces the enzymatic activity, so you can't convert folate into a usable methyl group, which you should know very soon given that your dissertation's on.
Right.
So we'll review the one carbon metabolism.
Thank you.
So if you're heterozygous, then usually they would ask you to take probably 800 milligrams of folate. Right, exactly.
No, they had me take Metnex, which was 2.
So this list of medication that you started all at once, was that on the advice of your infertility specialist or this other group that you had gone to see?
Through this other group, so through Rosalind Franklin, which they're reproductive immunology. So my main fertility doctor was kind of like, what? But agreed that I could do it. I mean, that he wouldn't turn off the implantation, I guess, or cancel me. Yeah.
About the IVIG. A lot of times, I work at a fertility clinic. We can't get the IVIG covered by insurance. So did you? That was all probably.
Maybe we explain a little what is.
I would love to go into that. Okay, so IVIG, as I understand it, was taken to wash the antibodies in my blood.
It is an isolation of immunoglobulins
Yeah.
that will bind to another antibody that may attack the fetus. And it's extremely expensive and it's not covered by insurance.
Oh, okay, I can go into that. I would love to go into that. IVIG is paid for or dosed by your body weight. So it comes in a clear bag, and which I put out because I was like, IVIG, is that red? Are they putting blood into me? But it's very clear. And they you call a specific pharmacy to get the treatment. So the treatment is you call it in as yourself, the patient, and out of pocket for me, and I mean, my weight didn't fluctuate that much, but I mean, we budget planned 2,500 for a bag or for a dose. I went into it without insurance. In most cases, you go into it without insurance because it is a medicine that is mostly used in, I believe, cancer. And it is not just a, a shoo-in for insurance policies to cover it. We petitioned 2 or 3 times to get the coverage. My husband is he works at a bank, a very well-known financial institution that has good coverage. And I had about $80,000 in IVIG, building up, and I was definitely freaking out. And I calculated it once that if insurance hadn't come in and helped me, I would have been about 200 grand out to have, this was just to bring my son into the world.
Will you explain what is the reason of all these treatments by your physician, by your who were attending you, or you did the research by yourself?
These were, this is what is on my medical records.
No, but I said, why is the reason of taking all the different drugs? Did they explain to you, or it's something that you investigate by yourself?
I am type A, so I, whenever talking about a drug, did my own research alongside of them, but they explained.
Sure.
Yes. Okay, so all of this medicine started happening. I was going through trying to get insurance. It was obviously a huge financial question mark of what we were doing. Again, it was controversial. I went through with the implantation, and I implanted a boy and a girl embryo. I have to live with several of the decisions that I made throughout the course of this journey, but I thought that was the best decision for me at this time, thinking I'm in this weird world where I have 2 doctors telling me I have major problems going on in my immune system, and I have another set of doctors that isn't sure, or wouldn't necessarily subscribe or understand that system of logic at this point in my journey. And I just thought if it didn't work, then we would really know there was something wrong in my immune system. I took a different approach to this implantation, and I tested pretty much every day until it showed up positive. And this was 7 days post implantation. Again, if you're a pregnancy line watcher, this is a very dark line for being at that phase in your pregnancy. So I was really, really scared, and I had the help of the doctors at Roslyn to support my immune system and provide early ultrasounds and updates to help me understand this. But I chose to go through this path 1 week before I got pregnant. And when you have major immune problems, you should probably think about that first. So anyway, the twins both implanted. This is a ultrasound picture from 4 weeks, 5 days. And this is where it really gets fun, maybe for some of you, I don't know, but I lost the baby B, as we call her, at 7 weeks. I knew that I was going to lose her. I had been having ultrasound since that first picture, which was 4 weeks, 5 days, because her heartbeat wasn't rising to the level of baby A. If you go back, you can kind of see them. Her initial implantation site was much smaller as well. Again, these were all PGS, PGD, whatever you call it, tested. But there were kind of problems from the beginning. And, the blue line here is my TH1. The red line here is my TH2. What I didn't chart in here was my ANA levels. My ANA levels did not go down below 1 to 1280 until I was 12 weeks, 5 days, and then they only stayed there for 2 months. And then they lowered again right in the beginning of May. And then my son was born. Okay, so around middle of May, we started getting the numbers back that my levels were really high again. The nurses and the doctors just said, in most immune patients, you give birth early, like, you're not a full 40 weeker. I was working full time. I had a pretty smooth sailing here in what is probably the second trimester, right? Yeah, because there we are, 28 weeks, and traveling for work, working about, I don't know, 60 hours a week. And we had to do a photo shoot, and I completed the photo shoot. And then the next day, was laying on my couch, and I stood up, and I was 35 weeks and 4 days. I stood up and felt like a huge gush, and it was blood. It was what felt like gallons and gallons of blood. And my husband called an ambulance and said, like, an ambulance is coming. And I had all of these problems. I was also on blood thinners, which was, part of the whole thing. And they said, if you get in the ambulance, they'll take you to the nearest hospital. And I was going to give birth at Northwestern, which, if you're in Chicago, that's like where you want to give birth at, for a multitude of reasons. But I didn't get the suite with the views. But so I ran to the car like I was being murdered. I ran in there like I was being murdered. We got there. They confirmed that I had ruptured my sac. I don't know really why it was all blood, other than I was told that is semi-normal. I had no signs of labor prior to the membrane rupture, and they lined up my doctors. I had a C-section. They lined up the NICU doctors, but my little son Elijah was born perfectly healthy, probably due to the prednisone. 7 pounds, 5 ounces, at 35 weeks, 5 days. And he has been a healthy dream child ever since. That's kind of my story to Elijah. Excuse me, the part that I leave out is a series of hematomas that showed up, resolved, showed up, bled throughout the course of that entire pregnancy. I don't think we need to go through every specific of that. Okay, so then a year after I had Elijah, we decided that we wanted to try again. I thought that if I approached this in a different manner by addressing my immune issues prior to conception, that I would have a better chance at having a healthy baby, having a healthier journey. Elijah was in every sense, perfect and great. And, we never really talked about why he was born early or what might have happened there. But I went back and started IVIG and the full protocol. I don't have an exact chart on all of my numbers, but I do have the data. I lowered my my ANA levels down to 1 to 320 before I started. My TH1 and my TH2 were also within the range of semi-normal. Mine have never been normal. I did an implantation of a little girl. she, I found out I was pregnant around the same time as Elijah. 2 weeks later, I had a major episode where I thought I had miscarried. It was terrifying. And we kind of shut the door, and it was a Friday, of course. And I thought, yeah, okay, this one's over too. And called my family and I told them the sad news. And then Monday at the ultrasound, there was still a heartbeat. So the course of her journey, I had spiked Th1, Th2, and ANAs, and a host of other, I think CD cells out of whack. So the CD19, CD56, and then the one that's like a combo, were never normalized. At 12 weeks, okay, so I had 3 ER visits during the course of this. I was on bed rest for 6 weeks of the first trimester. I mean, you only find out when you're 4 weeks. So I think I was not on bed rest for just a couple of weeks, but the hematoma resolved around 12 weeks. At 13 weeks on the dot, I stood up from my couch to go to bed, and I felt a huge gush, and I was so scared. I thought it was blood, and I went to the bathroom and it wasn't, and I was just like, yes, like, let's go. Went to bed, and I just like laid there in my bed, and I was like, my water broke. And I called my OB because it was night, it was like 10 p.m. and he called me back I paged him or whatever, he called me back, and he was like, you probably just like peed a little bit. And like, honestly, that's like probably what I would say to somebody, like some nut girl who calls me at 12 weeks saying she's in labor. Like, no shame. I was just like, it's not. I had to go back to the place where I birthed Elijah. By the time I got to not the emergency room, but to triage, as they call it, which is the first floor of Northwestern before you get checked in to give birth. By the time I got there and they did the ultrasound, she had basically no amniotic fluid left. She was still alive. I said, okay, send me upstairs. We'll figure it out up there. And they said, no, you have to go home. And I said, I have to go home. I have this baby who my body just fucking killed, excuse my language. And I was in shock. They called in like Xanax at the CVS and they sent me home, and they said, you have 2 options. You can birth her on your own, or you can come back for a D&C. And she was healthy. She was healthy. And I went home that night so scared that I was gonna have to give birth to her in my bathroom. You guys, it's so scary. Just hope the work that you do is really important, because stuff like this is like the rest of my life. And I didn't. I survived until 4 p.m. on Friday afternoon when they fit me in. And they did the ultrasound. She was still alive. They brought in the woman who prays with you before a life is gone. Just said, please take my baby to heaven. Like, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. And
No, it's fine.
no, I know. I woke up from it, and my husband was there. My mom had flown in, and I woke up from it, and I always wake up funny from procedures. That's why I put those pictures in whenever they give me like the sleeping drugs or whatever. I said I wanted Portillo's, which is a hot dog place in Chicago. So we drove through Portillo's after this, like, oh, I'm good. I have tissues. Thank you. I'm a crier. It's fine. And we drove through Portillo's and we sat at my dining room table with my son, he was 18 months old, my mom, my husband, and I just like, I just closed the door and I said, like, I'm going to choose joy. And I smiled at that dinner and I just, I decided that I wanted to live in a different world, which is a world full of peace. And, I think this is a quote that says it best for me. I stopped trying to control and trying to over medicine, me trying to carry my own baby, I guess, in a sense. So, I did all the healing and I sold my company to Nestle, the chocolate maker. And life became like normal and peaceful and good. And I just felt that I really wanted to have another child. And so we went through a process of surrogacy and found a surrogate. And I am so grateful for being fortunate enough to be able to do that process. But I had no complications. She got pregnant the first round of IVF, and my daughter Ruthie was born, pretty much 40 weeks later. I think they let us pop her bag because I was up in Iowa to pick her up, but no. And I have my daughter here now, and I just feel my life journey with my children and my husband has shifted, and I've spent this decade, trying to create this family that I now have, and I just feel very passionate and almost alive inside to try to help other people who are either on the path that I'm on or going to be to try to solve what goes on in the immune system. And I just come here to share my story and remind everyone that the work that you do is important, and wouldn't have brought my son here without it. So that is my spiel.
Thank you.
You have the Italian beef or Chicago style hot dog?
I always get a breaded chicken. It's like a secret.
Any questions? Go ahead.
You say several times that you did your own research for the different stuff. For someone like me that I'm trying to get into the science communication, what do you think that was the hardest thing to get to the information? To get to access to the knowledge that, for example, to all those kids that from the university say.
I just don't know if I thought the validity of the knowledge I was finding was going to be my doctor's opinion. And I found that to be the hardest part, because bringing something forth to your doctor, even if it's clinically based, even if it's written by another doctor, it's hit or miss, right? And following and tracking your immune system as a reason why you are having issues in a pregnancy or unable to carry a pregnancy to term. I felt like I was on the gray internet, just kind of being sneaky behind my doctor's back for a moment. But in a sense, it helped me expedite my process, perhaps saved me from many, many more losses. So I don't know.
Anything?
I was wondering, in the non-pregnant state, is your immune system triggered a more immune system? You had stomach pain.
Yes, it is. It is.
It's not the pregnancy.
I'm asymptomatic to my understanding, although people in the community would say you don't know that, you don't know how you're feeling versus how I'm feeling. But I know that my ANA level sustained post-pregnancy and post-4th trimester.
Any other questions?
I'll go. A lot of us study the male contribution to couples infertility. Did they do any workup of your husband, and was he quote unquote normal, or what was his
Yeah,
status?
they did. They do that. They did that before the IUI process. So for the IUI, they spun his sperm. So I went to the same floor of Northwestern every time. That first report that came back was normal. My husband was also genetically tested. He has one. I can't remember what it is, but I do not carry that. So we never progressed our knowledge of like what that is, but he has one genetic abnormality.
Any other questions?
What
Good.
would,
So-
what would you all have done? Would you have done anything differently? Are there any like advances to the protocol? Any other knowledge?
Maybe I have maybe a question that can answer that. So in cases where you are rejecting immunologically, is it known that if you switch partner? Not that I'm saying that what they should vote, but if you switch partner, do women that reject, that specific genetic combination tend to not reject?
It's not really part of the partner. It's really an adaptation that is happening during the pregnancy in that specific individual. It doesn't matter where it's coming from. The paternal component, if it's paternal component. In terms of your question, what is going on? Yes, so we know now that it's a type of new immune modulators that you don't require to have all that cocktail, which is a big burden to the body. And putting all those things is already a challenge.
Yeah.
So there is new type of drugs that or approaches even more natural, like HCG.
Yeah.
The same HCG that you're pregnant can modulate many of the symptoms. But I want to thank you for sharing with you this, because see, many of the people that you see in this room, they spend 7 days a week, sometimes many hours in the lab trying to solve the problems that you brought. And I don't think we have every day, or sometimes many of them have never the opportunity to see the relevance of the work that you're doing. So I think you have conveyed an amazing message that is worth it to work 7 days a week, because there is a lot of patients like you outside that still needs our help. Thank you for exciting us, for giving us the energy to continue doing our work. Okay? And thank you everybody for coming today.